Japan versus Korea. This time, Japan on the attack, Korea on the defense. Of course, Japan just won on defense last map. So if Japan can win here and take all points on trench lines yet again, they will win this best of 3 and be moving on to the next round. There is a chance, I think a pretty good chance, we're going to go to that 3rd round here in our best of 3. Taylor, I'm excited to see our teams talk about their strategies and figure out where they want to be, what they want to do, and how they want to enter in each of these points.
Yeah, without a doubt, this is going to be so critical for Japan because you mentioned Korea might have an advantage on the defensive side or might get the defensive side if this goes to a game 3, which could mean trouble for the side of Japan. With them up 1-0, they're one map away from securing a win, finally getting a win in general on land, but more importantly, moving forward to play against Thailand for a chance to go to grand finals. A big moment for Japan, but they've got to go big, and I think where they need to step it up is going to be their revives, especially on the attacking side. They were dwarfed in stats from the revives from the Korean side. Now, why is that a problem? Well, obviously, on defense, it doesn't really matter as much necessarily. It's still very important, and I stand by the fact that revives, your medics, are one of the most important roles on the team. But for Japan's side, if they're not getting the revives, if their medics aren't going big, what does that mean? They're losing lives. And the more lives you lose, naturally, the less lives you're going to gain when you move on to the next points. And therefore, Korea is going to have a tremendous advantage. So I'm looking at Japan. Again, their medics have to go mega giga chad huge. If they don't, they're in trouble, and Korea is going to get the win, and we're going to game 3.
There's always a moment on these broadcasts, Taylor, where you revealed you are a true gamer, to be honest. The Mega Giga Chad Medics is hilarious comms, but I agree. I think it's a really important role. And frankly, Korea had a massive amount of effort to be able to sustain lives. You got to remember, this guy on your screen right now, Dead Duck, had 95 revives as the commander while doing everything in between and picking up a few eliminations. The other side, though, is secondary reviver had 101, so but just between the two of them, almost 200 revives. That's the amount of tickets you go into starting the game. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. Let's hop into the game and see which side's going to come out on top. And I saw somebody in chat say it. I hope Japan attacks a little bit more aggressively than last time. I fully agree. Japan came in very slow. As a reminder, if you watched yesterday, Japan might have just grabbed their first win, but this will be their first point that they've capped ever in the ACL on land.
Oh, it's a good point.
They did not cap A against China at all. So this is a big moment for them to see what they're able to do.
Yeah, that sobers the mood a bit, because you're right. They haven't captured a single point. And A is a little bit, in my opinion, easier to... Well, I don't know. I thought A was relatively easy to capture, at least on the map that they played whenever it came to cracked. So... we'll see how this goes down. One good thing, though, and I will give credit where credit is due to Japan, is they did a great job retaking sites from Korea. Their pressure was pretty impressive as far as I'm concerned. So I think their attack is going to be pretty powerful, a lot more powerful than maybe we are expecting. Already the take is starting to get underway. You can tell Korea is backing away from the center of A, as that's kind of the death zone at the moment. And this gives an opportunity for Japan now to attack on that right-hand side, which Korea is meeting. But you can see it. Japan is moving forward, and quickly they're about to overtake A. I think they're about to have A very quickly, much quicker than Korea was able to get.
Well, as per the usual, it's Mbashi back in the vehicle. This is the same player that was on the defense making massive plays in the tank. So again, with the attacker starting with a tank here, it just opens things up on A very quickly. You can see several respawn beacons to try to keep numbers on the point. It's just pretty difficult to do as the defense. If you are able to send a route man as the attacker to clean up some of these respawn beacons, that absolutely is worth it, to be honest with you. I think that's something to pay attention to, because these respawn beacons absolutely change the game. So we'll see what they're able to do with that. It does look like a couple respawn beacons have been taken out. The tank's still very healthy, very alive, and it looks like we've got at least a couple players on top of it or nearby it, maybe inside of it, making sure it stays up, which is the right move. So A is going to be falling here shortly. It's just a matter of time, because you can see where the defense is pushed. They are getting completely wiped at this point, and this one's not even close.
Japan is very spread out, which is a lot different from how Korea was attacking point A. They were doing it as a full-man unit, all 20 just going in, right, and overwhelming the defensive positions of Japan. This time around, Japan is spreading out, which is what they did, and I was quite critical of it when they were facing off against China during semifinal 1 yesterday, but at least against Korea, for point A specifically, it seems to be working out quite well, and you can see the green dots on your screen. That's going to be the Korean forces starting to move back. I think they are conceding. A is going to go to Japan. Very clean. They only lose 11 lives, and Japan, they're on the run, they're going forward, and they're basically at 200 lives.
Okay, now compare these score lines to the last time, okay?
Right.
Reminder, Korea finished up the attack because it took longer, to be fair. Finished up the attack with a player at over 15,000 score, which is why they were able to call in another vehicle. So this is a very quick take going into B1 and B2. With some of the score lines much lower, they have a lot of work cut out for them, and potentially this could be a difference maker. They quickly go through it, but the question is, what are they able to do on B1 and B2 as they make their first organized attack, which looks like it's going to be towards B1.
Yeah.
ヤグルにおいはこれ待つここで待つキラブンで切るよ待っていつでもいいよアルバマいつでもいいよ切れここ中でこっちだけて
補給箱が制圧完了してるあと中だね全部中だね
中行くやろちょっと出る
オッケーナイス縦入れる俺も
あ俺死んだわ
待って縦エントリーしてるよ
やってる後ろこビアン取ってる
B1 取れてる
Go, B1. They are here for it, and they are on it. Saniva operators in tow, holding down this point. They are trying to stabilize and set up a holding position on map where they can then make their counterattack onto B2. Very well done by Japan thus far. This is looking like a very strong start, Taylor. I'm excited to see what Japan can continue to do.
Yeah, like I said, Japan was unrelenting during their defensive side against Korea. The way they were retaking sites was impressive, and it seems as if they're doing the same thing, but now on their attacking side, pushing directly into Korea. They took B1 in sensational style, but that doesn't guarantee them a chance to hold it. You already see the exclamation point popping up on the D1 position. That's Korea putting a bit more attention on pushing Japan back, and it seems as if they might be able to effectively do that, but B2 already getting spicy. Japan on this position, Korea doing everything they can to push them back, but regardless, Japan continues to push forward, but it seems as if finally they've got them off of B2, but we were focused on the B1 position. Korea was challenging it, trying to get the decap, unsuccessful, and it seems like Japan now, from what I can tell, Ghosh, has got a great foothold on B1, and now, since they pushed Korea back to B2, Japan can finally push up and aggress onto the second position.
Well, worth noting, look at the Korean counterattack on defense, trying to swing around the right-hand side and maybe catch this team unaware. The tank Umbashi putting in work right now, catches them in transition, points it out to the team, and all of a sudden, they have been completely stifled in whatever motion they were trying to make. Backed up, player disadvantage. There could be an opening for a Japan counterattack onto B2 and potentially take this point. It was answered by 4 plus a tank shelling, and it worked out near flawlessly on the side of the Japan side. So well done to keep your team alive. Well done to maintain position on B1 and prevent any sort of counterattack. All they're worried about right now is getting their bodies on B1. Japan does not want to go to B2 yet. They're trying to hold B1. They've got it. They need to stack bodies on B1, get everybody ready, then make a move together. That's coordinated warfare. That's what we're looking for.
Already got some early predictions in the chat. Lloyd, shout out to you. Japan will win. What are you guys thinking? Japan, are they looking strong enough to take this series 2-0. Do you think their attacking side is going to be just as strong as their defense was in round 1 against Korea? Or do you guys think we're going to a game 3 and Korea is going to win the series 2-1 and move forward to play against Thailand? I don't know. It's still up in the air. Japan started off very strong. They captured A quickly. They also got their hands on B1 blistering fast. But look at Korea. They have managed to fight back and counter Japan's attack. And Korea, slowly but surely, starting to gain control of this point once again.
Yeah, this is a great look at a couple different perspectives, a couple more tanks getting into the mix. I've got to say, Korea has done a really good job to be able to take back B1 for a moment. Unfortunately, Suniva operators on top, sure, you're able to cut them down on point. The lone survivors not able to hold it down, so Japan, the counterattack paid off, and it's because this vehicle has gotten into the mix, getting a little bit more aggressive, shelling from distance. Japan still holding their flank. They're trying to make sure that their tank is able to stay alive, and a couple of these operators, if wrapped around correctly, with a blink of an eye and a couple of well-placed AT4s or otherwise, would be able to take down their tank, which would totally change the fight in the power position that Japan does have. But we are seeing a hair of a stalemate on B1 and B2 as a Suniva operator. Widow, shout out to you, my friend. Taylor was trying to do that to me off camera, apparently. Yeah, it looks good when you're able to execute the grappling hook into the shield beatdown. Yeah. What a cool operator, but very valuable in trench lines. Yes. And as expected, we're seeing a lot of them.
Attacking the right-hand side. Widow, unrelenting, tries to get another one. I want to stay on his perspective for a little bit longer. Summer getting pinned between two. Widow goes in for the beatdown. Summer trying to stay alive. Widow gets another one. He's on fire. These Sunivas have been brutal without question. B1 once again under attack. Japan desperately trying to get it back. Korea's done a wonderful job defensively holding on to B1 and more importantly gaining it back once they end up losing it. So much attention has been here on the B1 side of things that we're now down to 135 lives. Let's not forget Japan. They got their first capture on A. Their first capture, as you said, Coach, of the tournament. But will their tournament, or excuse me, will this game end on B1 and B2? It's a possibility. We saw that happen to Korea in their matchup versus Thailand yesterday. So B1, B2, it's tough to get, and Japan starting to struggle a bit.
Japan has grabbed another vehicle. I want to say it was either a LAV or a tank destroyer, but oh, it looks like one of Korea's vehicles called in way back on point C, basically coming from spawn, gets shot out of the air. What a huge value add for the side of Japan. They just made a massive swing in firepower on this map. I'm going to be honest, this maybe is a little bit of a hot take. That swapping of vehicle power positions, having Japan able to call in a vehicle and taking out one of Korea's, might be a difference maker in them winning or losing on B1, B2. So we'll continue to pay attention to that and see how it goes for them. But that was a big swing.
See how annoying the razor traps from Suniva are in these trench lines. Players forced to run over them, slowing them down just a little bit, and you know, slowing you down, especially when you're trying to attack onto a position, can be the difference maker between living and dying. We got a Japanese way out in the distance by himself. That was Abaton. Wonder what he's doing on the flank. I don't know how much of an impact he's going to have, but he is way out there. B2 finally starting to get played around with as Japan encroaches onto the positioning. You see Korea desperately now trying to get B1 back in their grasp, which making a great effort. The question is, can they get the last remaining members of Japan? Yes, they can. There's going to be reinforcements, but B2 going to Japan, but Korea successfully taking back B1, but only for a short amount of time. It looks like Japan has recovered.
Yeah, it's the classic tug of war. They've traded points, no big deal for the most part for the side of Korea, but it feels like a matter of time at this point. I'm going to be honest, they've done a great job depleting lives. This is, I don't know, 85 lives cut down here on B1 and B2 after a very quick capture of A. I think one of the reasons for that, you've got to remember that the best revivers, the best battlefield medics out there were from Korea, so they're able to keep bodies on the point, and also our attacking team a little bit less medic focused, which means they've lost quite a bit of lives. So I would love to listen in with that team, see what they're able to do.
다시 오른쪽.
아까 그렇죠,
제발
그렇죠.
브리핑해.
이번에 지하도
지금
들어갈게.
앞에 풀 몇이야? 세코님 왼쪽으로 세코님.
삐용 지하
크게 돌 거야 크게.
왼쪽 차려.
크게 돌 거야 우리. 왼쪽 차려.
나
우리 탱크 푸시래. 탱크 푸시. 탱크 푸시. 리콜 타기야 날개 비트 앞에. 가자. 오케이. 차련 반피. 필. 왼쪽 한 분대 옵니다 여러분. 왼쪽 한 분대. 삐뚜 정면에 두 분대. 삐뚜 정면에 두 분대.
재활지 AT 쏠 수 있으면 쏘세요. 지금 올라와 있어 참호 위로.
저거 안 돼요. 저 지금 안 돼요. 잠시만요. 올르고 잠시만. 차륜 여러분 차륜.
야 이거 삐용.
탱크 쪽으로 나이스.
들어봐.
여러분 차륜. 차륜 논방.
비쳐 들어와.
안으로 들어와.
옥상에 나가서 정리하면 돼.
Brilliant comms from Korea. They are no holds barred in communicating, which is a little bit different than what we saw from them last time around. Really strong communication from their commander and a really strong retake here on B1. Look how many folks they've gotten into the bunker. It's going to be very difficult to not trade points right now. As you can see, Japan is on a little bit on their heels. They might lose both of these points if they're not careful. It looks like Japan does have a hold on to B2, so it will be a full trade.
Yeah, but Korea has split their forces. If Japan can just full send onto a site once again, they should be successful, and I think they're doing exactly that onto B1. B1 has been the main focal point for Japan. Naturally, you've got to start somewhere, but Japan, B1, desperately trying to get it once again. B2 also being gathered. I think they're finally making a breakthrough, and this might be the moment they've been waiting for. They're down to 93 lives. There's only a handful of defensive members from Korea, and I think finally Japan's able to do it. Just a couple more ticks, and they get it. 162 lives going in to point C. We look at Umbashi at 28 total eliminations. He's been a guy that we've been shouting out consistently, and he was the hero for Japan, as far as I'm concerned, on the defensive side of things on point E. This time around, he hasn't slowed down. He continues to slay out and put out big numbers. And Killua as well with 42 revives. You got to take a look at him. 42 revives, Goj, is incredibly high. Remember, that was one of the things I pointed out from the defensive side from Japan. That's where they struggled, but it seems like this time they're putting more of an emphasis on trying to protect the lives that they have, because it's limited on the attacking side.
Yeah, it's totally correct. I think the attackers usually have more revives. I will shout out on the Korea side, OAH apparently was an OBJ fiend and had 49 revives for the side of the defense on those points. One of the reasons they were able to hold for a while, but you're right. One of the things we've traditionally seen in trench lines is B1 and B2 usually swings the way of the attackers when they start playing high-risk scenarios like moving their vehicles onto the point. We saw the tank destroyer get onto B1. They had a player disadvantage, but they were able to clean up a crazy amount of kills and open things up. Now, as we move into C, obviously, the defense did a pretty good job on B1 and B2, so we're not maximum amount of lives here, which means the task of holding C for an extended amount of time to make sure that the attackers don't have max lives going into D is a little bit easier of a task. As a reminder, we're gaining about 50-ish from point C from our last round, and so if you can get them below 150, technically a win. Ideally, if anything, if you can get them below 100, that would be best case scenario. So a couple vehicles being called in, but will they be cut down before they land? The answer is heck yeah. Great shots from Korea from way downtown all the way down, cleaning up that tank before it can land.
Ghost, I think that's the most aggressive we've seen any team get on to, you know, attacking the tanks and obviously the vehicles before they even land. Because yesterday we weren't seeing too much of an attempt, right? But this time around they are. I mean, the improvement from day 1 to day 2 is already apparent. And we're seeing Japan and Korea, who struggled to win yesterday. I can't wait to see what Thailand and China are going to bring to the table on Championship Sunday. But see, this is the next objective. This is the point that Japan held on to very tight defensively when Korea was on the attack. Now the question is, now that they flip roles, can Japan attack effectively? Let's listen in and find out.
30秒後出せるって30秒後出せるって
裏取り来てるかもねこれ。
まだこれ
ちょっと車両がある。あの車両に対しての入りたくないこれ無理じゃね？
今戦車出せればいける。戦車出せればいける。
가만히 있거든. 戦車出して、
一旦車両破壊するから公兵を出してほしい。公兵出してほしい。
立って待って、シーザーがいて。
で右側から絶対無理だわ。右側絶対無理。右絶対無理。左側左側。
ごめん。マジありえない。また固まった。
Clear comms, concise comms, and I think it's calmer than it was, especially after that Korean listen. And the reason why is because we're just at the start of the sea attack, and Japan is filling it out, and they haven't made great headway as of yet goes. Korea has set up quite well defensively and has stopped Japan from progressing forward, or at least as much as they probably wanted. They've already lost about 15 or so lives. Japan's still very healthy when it comes to the lives category, but I am starting to get a little bit worried. Korea's heating up, and their defense wasn't bad on B1 and B2. Japan, they've got their work cut out. We already knew it was going to come down to the wire if they wanted to try and take this win, but it's going to be hard, and unfortunately even harder now as Korea will answer back and destroy their vehicle before it can even land.
I'm going to be honest. This is one of the stronger holds I've seen on C in a while, and it's namely because of these two tanks in the back line just sniping with their missiles all the way across the map to clean up any of the vehicles called in by Japan. There's no advantages for Japan right now at all. It's not even really close on this point. Now, they haven't lost that many lives. We've been watching for a couple minutes now, and they've only dropped about 15 or so. But even still, this is a masterclass in vehicle prowess and vehicle advantages and making sure that you have it and continue to have it. I'm really impressed with Korea and their defense right now and what they're able to do. Japan is on their back foot, and I don't know if they know what to do right now. And the only thing they can do is swarm the point and just try to get us to new, because then just maybe the tanks won't have it a look over when we call in our next tank.
All right, see, finally starting to get a little bit captured from Japan's perspective. You've got one Saniva just in the middle. You got Dustal, who's also trying to back up the Saniva, but for the most part inside that hill, it's just Korean. Yeah, those two remaining Japanese members are going to be fully eliminated. The tanks, the missile barrage refusing to give up, relentless. Japan once again pushed back. As soon as they push forward, they're getting mowed down. How do you deal with the tanks on the back line if you're Japan, right? How do you get rid of them? Because, I mean, they've been so devastating, Japan doesn't even have a chance to get close.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely why it's so important to protect your tank advantage and also make sure you take down the other vehicles. I mean, it's just as simple as math. Like, player v player, when you have player advantage, we talked about that. Vehicle versus vehicle, you got vehicle advantage. It's even more important because of the amount of raw firepower you're able to throw down. I love that. I mean, you'll see when we're paying attention to the overhead cam, you'll see Abaton playing Objective Hound. He is the commander for that squad on the Japanese side and is playing on point, going for C, getting into the mix rather than playing backup support. So it does look like finally Japan is able to call in a couple of vehicles. Let's see how much value they can actually get out of them, though, because of these long sight lines from the tank, you might have to play a wrap position. And also, frankly, this isn't the vehicle to take down an M1 tank. I'm going to be honest. No. The armored assault vehicle is really smart and really strong in a couple scenarios, but right now they're just waiting and allowing it to be a resource point for their team where they can revive and respawn inside the armored assault vehicle so they can make a counterattack. So that's why they're just hanging out, making sure they're not in combat. You'll see it's slowly ticking up. It can hold a total of 6.
Yeah, there they are.
And here come a couple of the players spawning on it. I really like this play. They're going for a flank onto the tanks. So we said the vehicle wasn't valuable when it comes to fighting tanks. Well, it is if you can spawn in with rocket launchers and can potentially take down one of these tanks. A very well-executed counterattack. We'll see if it pays off for them. Not sure it will yet, but very close, and will give their team a little bit of breathing room on the point if they can open up another window.
Here's Wolf. Wolf tried to destroy it. It's dipping out. It's locked on nearly. Get the shot off. Well, he doesn't need to. I thought Royster from Korea's side was going to be able to sniff out that counterattack from Japan, but luckily, at least Korea was able to react regardless. Let's listen in to the chaos, which is point C.
방패병 들어있대요. 여러분 걷던 집중. 막을 수 있어. 수복했어. 하나 더. 사라지님 왼쪽 럴킹도 조심합시다 우리 이제.
네, 예, 예. 오케이.
나이스. 우측은 안전해요. 우측 안전해요. 거점 우측 돈다 이제 우리 우측 돈다. 거점 안에 방패. 거점 안에 방패. 1층. 방패 컷. 방패 하나.
로이스님 왼쪽 시야 좀 떠주세요.
방패 하나 더. 하나 더. 다운. 방패 마무리죠. 바지 정면 신경. 방패 잡아야 돼요. 방패 잡아야 돼. 나이스. 방패 다운. 방면 두 분대. 오른쪽 한 분대.
오른쪽 돌아요.
오른쪽. 우리 그냥 거점에 붙어 있어.
Every time we do a listen-in with Korea, you can feel the intensity, the heat of battle through their voices. It's always high octane, high energy, but you can also hear the confidence. A lot of nice is coming out, right? They really are starting to feel themselves, but the question is, no matter how confident you are, can you stop a full frontal push? This is the strongest attempt to take over C Japan has had so far. Can Korea stop them?
Yeah, it's a great play, and this is the moment you have to make a decision. Do we send a tank in and risk it getting blown up for the sake of holding C longer? I don't know if I would, but somehow, some way, it looks like Japan is making this push. They're going to take C, and will they take the tank out with them, or will they be stifled at the goal line? This was so close.
The goal line!
The pressure from the tank. Somehow, some way, Korea gets back on the
there's
point.
two!
They send both tanks. They blow up the building. They say, welcome to the party. You can't withstand two
they're going
tanks
straight
on
in.
point. This is incredibly risky, but it has paid off as we are seeing the best hold of C we've ever seen on broadcast, and it's coming from the side of Korea when they needed it most. They're stepping up to the fight and saying, oh, we're going to game 3, and there's no question about it.
Imagine if the tank gets a little bit more forward and takes down the respawn beacon. Japan gets set to square one. If they get wiped here, they are in trouble. I asked you in the beginning, Goj, I said, look, when it comes to C, can they hold on? Can they lose? Well, I guess we get our answer. It is no. But what a heroic effort that was from Korea. And like you said, one of the best holds we have seen on C to date. The narrative going into this was C takes about 60 seconds. Well, from Japan and Korea's perspective on both their defensive sides, a heroic effort and a hell of a hold. We look at some of the stats and some big numbers coming out from both sides. Now, let's get serious. D1 and D2, it's a lot more difficult than C should be. Japan's only at 111 lives, Goj. How are we looking? Can Japan move forward to E? I don't know. Korea went into this point just the last round with 160 lives, and they barely got out to go to point E. Japan's 50 lives lower than that.
Yeah, you also got to pay attention to the amount of points that are being sunk into vehicles that are going absolutely nowhere from Japan. We've seen a bunch of people spend money on the armored assault vehicles rather than trying to save up for some of the larger, more impactful vehicles because they've spent so much of their score to call in their tanks that are getting obliterated before they can even land. There's a lot of dead score on the side of Japan, and I think it's going to come back to bite them when it gets to these points because Korea was able to not only stifle them down to around 100 lives, 110 lives now after they gained the lives from C, but they also kept both of their tanks alive to be able to play. And finally, we see our first tank from the Japan side into the mix being spent here for D1 and D2. They know they need to make a very aggressive push to D1, and they need to take both of these points very quickly if they want to have any chance on point E.
Quickly indeed. D1 already starting to be played around. Dead Dog, the commander for Korea, putting in work. Doesn't matter who's in front of him. Nobody is safe. Through the smoke, through the chaos, doesn't matter. He's got it pinpointed. He even got, of course, the vehicle moving straight through Umbashi on your screen. He's an incredible player. He's done tremendous work for the side of Japan. Looking to continue that energy here. The hero, the unsung hero, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to the E defense Japan had a little bit earlier from Korea. Down to 95 lives. D1 is going to be fully decapped. Well on its way to being fully capped. Japan making good work. It is imperative that they capture D1 and D2 very quickly so they go into the final point, point E, with as many lives as possible. And I will say, Goj, when we were looking at them drawing on the map, making their battle plan, they were putting all their emphasis and spending all of their time on point E. So that's where the bulk of the communication and the strategy, especially from the coach's perspective, is going to come into play. The other points, yeah, they were focused on it. They already had their game plan, but I think we're in for something special on the attacking side if Japan can get onto the E point.
Yeah, it looks like Japan has taken D1, which is going to be their commanding officer's command. So there's a chance to earn some extra score here if they're able to hold it for another minute. The problem is we are running out of lives very quickly. And so you can see Japan has called in all of their reinforcements. They've called in 2 tanks who are both very low. They've got 2 tanks. Their armored assault vehicle gone, not even close. That thing keeps getting blown up. That is 6,000 points down the drain. But there's 2 tanks alive. They need to keep those engineers on them, and they need to focus on holding this point for 45 more seconds, earning some extra score, and then making a push there for D2. They can't really afford to tug of war because they've already spent so many points over the course of the last couple sections. So this is a tough fight, an important one, and there's a decent chance Korea can win it right here if they pay attention to where these tanks are at and get active on taking them out just like they have been this entire map.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Goj, if Korea shuts Japan down on D1, D2, we go into game 3 and they will be on the defensive side, correct?
Yeah, most likely. I would assume they would select that. So they'll have the opportunity to select based on the tiebreakers.
Which it's going to be close, but I mean, from what we're seeing, right? I mean, that's pretty much a win. I mean, unless Japan does something a bit different. So, hey, this is critical. Japan has to capture D1 and D2 and at least put an effort onto E if they want an opportunity. Another tank heartbreakingly getting destroyed before it lands. Japan won't be able to use it. Let's listen in.
もう一回言ってウルさん
残壕に少し援護
サクッチのサポートロックサクッチのサポートしてサクッチのサポートして
AT ないんだよ AT ないんだよ AP だ
オッケー AP 勝った
AP 出せない山がいるから AP 出せないって
オッケー出せないって
待ってこれ待ってこれ待って
壊されたもう壊されてるから出せない
山引いたね一旦山引いたね
サクッチおいでおいでこれ
今山くってくるよシフトして
それで行ってどうすんのウルさんオッケー分かったアサルトトラックで D2 まで入って全体ビーコン置くわ
了解
しなかったごめんね
残壕開けてるからね今残壕開けてるからね
Well, I think Japan is in serious trouble. Such a good effort on D1. At one point, they were trying to go for both. Korea successfully pushes them back. They desperately needed that tank, but that tank was blown up before it could even land. Goj, destroying those vehicles before they land has been brutal, and I don't think we've seen that as brutal as it has been in this series today. Yesterday, we didn't see as much of it. They were taking care of the vehicles once they were already on land, but this time around, they're not making that same mistake twice. That's why they were punished by both China and Thailand, respectively. Japan down to 49 lives. I'm going to say it just like it did on C. Can they get the job done? I don't know. Their back is against the wall.
Yeah, they've got to coordinate an effort right now. Obviously, Japan has a really great commander who's been doing a fantastic job today already. They did a great job in map 1, but here in map 2, they can't quite get anything going. Here's the final push, likely, or the final couple pushes on that far side of the map. All together, you see them coordinated. They do have a hair of, well, another armored assault vehicle, I believe, on the far side. Not going to do a whole ton, but this is our first guided missile, I believe, already here into D. To start things off, I would assume it's from Korea, but let's take a look and see where it lands. Doesn't get any value. That is from Japan. Somebody's been saving up. That is Orasina, who's going to be the top scorer from this map that we saw going into this point. Drops it, gets one single kill, and that's it. And unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be enough to truly open up this map.
Oh, hold up. They're making a great attempt. Japan They destroyed one of the tanks from Korea. They love sending these vehicles on a full flank. They were doing that. That's why their success on defense against Korea in game 1 was so good. And they're doing much the same here. Umbashi soon to fall. I am sure of it. He jumps out of the vehicle. It's still maintained. Surprisingly, still alive. Another guided missile to come through. But Korea has recovered on D1 and D2. I'm going to say it. Japan still has a slight chance to move forward to E, but a very slight chance.
Here's another guided missile, this time for the side of Korea. It cleans up 2 on D2, and it says, woo, okay, well, that'll do. Obviously, we had player advantage, but that's one way to take them out, and it forces, you see the rest of this force that was trying to push up into D2, it forced them to back off, and it gave Korea a moment to take power position on the point. Very well done to hold both of these points under fire from both. Job's not done, but so far, so good when it comes to using your missiles correctly in terms of zoning off the points to the side of Korea, and also playing these fights correctly. You're right, Japan caught some value by taking out a couple tanks, but yet again, another vehicle called in, it barely ekes through, and this is going to be a huge boon if they're able to revive it. That's going to be a love coming in as a third guided missile being called in for the final battles of this fight, this time landing on D2 and only catching 1 yet again. This is going to come from the side of Japan.
All right, Japan's putting in their best effort, but they're starting to run thin. We're down to one more concise, one more good push with 27 lives remaining. Even at this point, if they do manage to succeed and move forward to E, they're not going to be healthy in the lives category, but no sense in giving up. Continue to fight until the very end, now down to 25. Japan has put up a wonderful effort. In fact, this has been their strongest attack we have seen on stream. Remember, just yesterday, as Goj pointed out, and he's 100% correct, they didn't even move past A. They weren't even able to capture one singular point against China's defense. This time around, they've made it much further, but not far enough. Japan manages to get D1, though. Again, can they get D2? Can they traverse the landscape? Look at the defense from Korea on the north side. You know they're going to focus their attention down onto D1 as soon as Japan moves over towards D2. It's that push and pull fight. But the thing is, Japan doesn't have enough resources to fully hold down and push Korea back off of D1. So it's just going to be Korea once again going for the decap, recovering D1. This is the end.
Yeah, and another well-placed guided missile, you can see it was landed by Korea. You know, we oftentimes clown them for not getting a single kill, but Korea threw in a guided missile on the north side of that point as they swung up, and so they had a huge power position to be able to not only jump onto the point, but also make sure that Japan couldn't address the point at all. You can see the Japan forces swinging onto D1, and another amazing guided missile picks up 3 this time of the Japanese forces that were trying to aggress on D2. You're right, this feels like the end, the last-ditch effort of the love onto point. Missiles galore, but great zoning technique from Korea. Great just keeping bodies on point for Korea. And right now, it is all about Korea. Japan able to pick up 2 with their guided missile to try to open up D2 for a counterattack. The problem is the forces aren't ready for it. You're just looking for stat padding at this point, it feels like. Let's see if they're able to swing on it and make a move. They've got to make a move right now.
Got to make a move indeed. They have to push forward. They have to push up. They've got to commit everything. There's no reason now not to commit. You can't hold anything back. Full send it. Smokescreen's going to come in. That's going to be a little bit helpful. You don't have that many defensive members from Korea onto D2, but the reality is the lives are running thin, and if Japan makes any error whatsoever, that's going to be a GG. Another guided missile appears to be coming through. The question is, whose side is it on? I assume it has to be Korea as they light up the kill feed, the elimination feed, I should say. Guided missile comes in. It's actually from Japan, but it only manages to get one from Korea. And Korea answers right back, and Korea will pick up a ton of Japanese members. Goj, that is a GG. Japan will be going to a Game 3 against Korea.
As per the usual at the end of these games, the guided missile barrage comes in with everybody using up all of their score to kill as many people as possible, zone off these points, but one well-placed missile can change the entire game, and that's going to be a Korea Summit that just crushed their opponents when they had to group up, when their lives were low. You just have to pray that the missile was well mistimed, rather, so that you stay alive, and of course it wasn't. This is esports, this is the ACL, and that missile is going to close things out here very shortly. Just one player needs to be fully eliminated and sent to the lobby, and everybody's going to be sent to the lobby. Vehicles, lobs, getting onto the point. We are in the final moments of overtime. Can they do it? Can they push across? I can't imagine so. Korea, such well executed across the board from B to C to D. They just depleted the resources, and this is the final moment with guided missiles galore. My goodness, CK Kun cleans up half the lobby with that missile, opening things back up on D2, making sure this overtime goes to the side of the defense.
Yeah, definitely looks like it's going to. I don't see anything changing. I mean, Korea has been spot on when it comes to their defense. And let's not forget, they nearly won their attacking side too. They've been incredible in this series so far. They've been the better team without question. That C-hold is something to study moving forward, especially if we see trench lines again. Man, Korea, you got to take notes. That C-hold was brilliant. But in overtime, Japan still not giving up. They refuse to. D1 might get captured. D2 is also being played around with. This would be a meteoric moment for Japan against all odds to actually capitalize. Goj, I don't know. I mean, they're making a great effort. Granted, Korea's going to be on D1, but Japan, they've got numbers.
Yeah, they're tug-of-warring aggressively between D1 and D2. Here's another missile coming in. Could open things up a little bit yet again from the side of Korea. That's going to be Wonka, only picking up one with that missile, but forcing these Japanese players off to push them off the point. Japan is making a huge push. We've got to get bodies on the point if we are Korea here onto D1 or D2. And right now it's looking like D2 is the priority, just barely. This is a small but mighty few on both sides fighting each other, jockeying for position on D2. And Japan is coming in with a vengeance. They got to get over here, and they got to get over here ASAP while they have advantage. Korea, they can't afford to lose a single tank, and another well-placed missile only picks up one, but a Lav on the point. Korea, locked and loaded. D2 is theirs. They've got all the bodies. They've got everybody respawning there.
On tank.
Artillery barrage, Lav versus tank, and the tank is low on the side of Korea. They have the final moments here. Sacrifice the tank, close this point out, and close out overtime. Here is the final push from Japan. Is it enough? I do not think so. Korea are going to be your winners. They maintain not only the 2 minutes of overtime, but also the entire game to force us to our very first best of 3 game 3. My goodness, what an ending.
Brother, I'm not going to lie. I was on the edge of my seat. I thought Japan was going to do it against all odds. What a heroic effort it was in the very last moments during overtime. I even saw chat, some chatters out there say, wait with the periods. You know what that means? They're thinking, hold up a second. Are we really going to see a collapse of Korea? Are we going to see a final point onto E? Well, we don't, but it got very close. You have to respect the tenacity from Japan to continue to hammer home D1 and D2, but at the end, it simply wasn't enough. And like you said, Goj, we're going to our first game 3 of the tournament, our first